Welcome back, you guys. This is Mark with Ncengravers, and today we're going to be working on the Canik MC9 pistol. Now, this is going to be a very interesting build, challenging. This is obviously one of the newest releases from Canik. I want to talk a little bit about the pistol. I want to talk about how advanced this gun really is, and I want to explain myself a little better. Then we're going to jump into what are we planning on doing to it, and of course, we're going to do the work. So, optic ready. These are a really nice pistol out of the box already. They're tall enough sights to work with the optic. They've got kind of everything you need right out of the box. Canik does appear to be one of these companies that is continuously pushing the opportunity when it comes to their pistols. So they're always revamping them, revising them. They're building something that the customers are asking for. They are making changes to things, and they're really moving to the front of the line and the top of the pile. If you ask me, they've come a long ways over the last couple of years. With that being said, this is one of the first ones that we've had in hand, and of course we're going to be doing some cut work on it. These are going to be a super challenging slide in order to modify. Let me explain that a little bit better. This may steer you into the direction of I don't want to do anything to my gun, or it may tell you that you better be a little bit more cautious whenever you do have something done to your pistol and who's the one doing the work. So let's explain that. So, first and foremost, front serrations, rear serrations, they've done a good job on that. And one of the things that stands out the most to me is the way in which it mounts to the frame. So, and if at any point none of this comes out clear, I'll take some pictures and include some pictures. So, when you have this and it slides out of the frame, you can see that this is the channel right here. And if you look, there's not a lot of material left over between where they've created those serrations and what's kind of left. So much, in fact, that they've made deep serrations and then they go to shallow and something that doesn't pretty much exist down here. So that's going to be a challenge if you were to ever think of, hey, let's knurl the entire side or let's shave the text off. I don't think you're going to get the results you're after. And I say that because if you look at where this is, where this channel is, and then you come down here and you look at where the text is, you're going to find out that it's pretty much in line with it or pretty close. So much, in fact, that you probably aren't going to be able to remove that factory text off the side of the slide unless you were possibly filling it, which isn't something that we would typically recommend or even offer. With that being said, that's probably the biggest challenge here, because that means you're always going to have some of these serrations left over in the front and in the rear section. They're not really going to go away, not at least on the factory pistol. If they, if somebody makes an aftermarket slide, that's a whole nother game. But the way it sits right now, that's going to exist. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but it's going to exist. So, one of the other things that they've made a change to on this, which, keep in mind, guys, I'm not knocking Canik. I'm actually kind of saying Canik has gone out of their way to create the most advanced product because there wasn't any modification left, right? And that's a little bit more of how this conversation should be going, and that is they have skeletonized and really shortened up some of the material in certain areas in order to build the best product for you, which in return means it's very challenging for the aftermarket world. Guys, one of the other things that they've done is, maybe we can show it this way a little better. Here on these slides, of course, we have a top and of course we have a side, and then we have this chamfered edge right here. And what they've done is, if you look, you can kind of see how much material is left over here, because this is going to be your most narrow point, is kind of where the side and the top meet each other. And of course, once again, I will include some pictures. But this is kind of the zone right where they come together. And, that causes an issue if you were to do some top cuts, or it could cause an issue if you were going to do some top cuts, because of how thin that material is between the top and the side. And of course, if you make it too thin, you are running the risk of it just, cracking over time. Now, to take this one step further, they've even skeletonized it from the inside. So if you look at the inside, there's kind of a rectangular pocket in there. And what they've done is, they've cut into this chamfered edge. So somewhere between kind of this zone and this zone, they've made a rectangular pocket on what would be the underside of the top. And when they've done that, they've reduced material, but they've also cut into that edge on the side. So what that means is whatever you're looking at right here as far as material goes really isn't the honest truth. It's really thinner than that up, probably from where my nail is to the top. Somewhere up in here it's thinner than that. Not so much on the sidewall. So that's obviously going to be a problem when you're talking about what can you do and how far can you get away with things before you destroy something, right? So those are some challenges that we have. Obviously, the takedown is pretty much the same. We've got your trigger plunger. We've got a little plunger in here for your extractor that's inside. We've got your roll pin on the top for your loaded chamber indicator optic. Of course, I'm assuming these probably come with a cover plate. These are probably the factory iron sights that works with that layout the way that it is now. Really nice. So, guys, let's talk about the rest of the parts that we have here, and then let's move into what is our goal? What are we trying to get done here? So, obviously, we got a slide. We've got a frame that we're going to also be color matching. So this would just be your good old regular frame that we have here. So we're going to have to take this guy apart. Let's move this over here. We've got some other small pieces. We've got some backstrap, different sizes that would go in here. I'm not sure if this one came from a different one or maybe this was just an attempt on coloring. Not a big deal. It's going to get stripped and colored. Of course, we've got the barrel. We have the spring here somewhere for the barrel. So in the end, we will be able to put this together. We've got an extended mag. So we're going to be doing some coloring on this to match this. And then we've got a regular mag, once again, more coloring. And then we've got a base, just looks like a factory base pad that would go on here with no extensions on it at all. So we've got a lot of stuff going on as far as like, what's this going to look like in the end? How far are we taking this? What are we coloring? What's going to match out to be? There is a lot of stuff here. So let's talk about what our plan is. And then let's go into what issues we may run into that. So the plan that we have here is to do side windows. We do side windows on our TP9 model slides and the variances, whether you've got an Elite Combat or just a TP9 or an SF or whatever it is. We do side windows on those, right? The full size, not the SC, but the full size. And we thought, why don't we do some side windows on the small one? Because one, it won't come up into where this edge is, where the top is, which we just, is a problem. And two, it's going to make a huge difference in the weapon itself as far as the weight reduction, which I don't think anyone's really after because it's such a small gun, and they have done a great job at skeletonizing it. But we are going to see some weight reduction because we are removing some material, so we're gonna achieve that. We are going to be able to see a little bit of barrel. The way that we've designed this this cutout on the side is really more for the huge change of style, right? So it's going to go away from these serrations. We're going to move into a really big change. It's a new technique that we're going to be using in order to cut the sides, and we will go into that in the end. It's just nothing like you've ever seen before. One of the things that makes these challenging, as you guys probably already know, is that flat and then edge and then top, right? So when you talk about cutting a slide like this and you put it into a vise, into a CNC machine, you turn it like this way better. The idea is that whenever the cutter's coming down, it's going to hit here before it's going to hit over here because it is slanted. So it just turns out being one of those deals where it's going to be challenging. You've got to figure out how much material can you remove here, and then how much should you be removing here. You could always take and put this in a two-way vise and roll this up so that way this edge is flat. We are not doing that, and there's a reason for that. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more about that in the end when we have a pattern in hand. And but yes, you could put this in a vise and you could roll this up so many degrees so that way this edge is actually the flat part and not the flat part here on the bottom. So there are ways around it. Obviously there's some machinists that watch our stuff and they're like, no dude, you can do it a different way. And yes, you can. We're not going to be doing it a different way, and it's mostly just because of the way the design works, and also because we would be back and forthing it a lot with our vices and resetting our vices every time we would be doing one of these slides, and then setting it back every time we're not doing one of these slides. So we're not going to do that. It's not very cost effective, and just doesn't work out in the timeline when you're trying to get a lot of stuff done. So side window, we're going to be keeping this. This is all going to stay. I did debate whether I wanted to run a pattern to remove this that would tie into the windows in the front. As of right now, that's a negative, so we're going to keep that on there. So the window is going to take place somewhere between kind of like here and up in this zone. This is going to be our work zone, and then we are going to be running a Cobra nose on this as well. So that's going to be a little bit more unique. We have done that on some of the TP9 models. Some we do offer on, like the SFX, and some we just don't. So it is something that I wanted to build out specific to this gun. I thought it would be kind of cool, and that's something that we're going to approach. So guys, that's pretty much it. I don't think there's going to be an absolute ton of cutting, what there is going to be is a ton of advanced cut work. So we're not going to see in the end like, man, this guy cut this whole slide up. I still don't think we're going to see that. But what I do think we're going to see is some pretty advanced work on this front zone. We're going to see some weight reduction. We are going to see some holes so we can see some barrel. The nose is going to change. Of course, we're going to be changing the color of the slide. I think it's going to be a great step in the correct direction for the MC9 since they are challenging and because I don't believe anybody's really doing much work on them. So I think it's an opportunity to really stand out and see exactly what it comes out looking like in the end, and really make a change to this pistol over how it already comes, which is amazing. So guys, let's jump over to the CNC and let's get some of this cut work turned out, and then I'm going to process some of the coloring, and we'll just see what it comes out looking like in the end as our final product. Alright guys, let's take a look and see how the cut work was going here. It's really hard to tell from the video just because there's so much liquid, but basically what we're trying to do here is cut down the serrations, create us a template in here to kind of add our windows, and that's exactly what we've done. We've created the edges all the way around, we've smoothed that out. The second part of this is really creating the internal step down for the dual pockets, and then of course we cut those pockets and we leave that little stud left in the middle right there. So that's kind of the cut work. What I want to do now is just kind of go into everything else that we've got everything put together. We've colored everything. I knew it was going to be difficult just kind of showing that content and letting it unfold because it was in such of a tight work area on the machine. So I thought it would just make a little bit more sense to tell you guys a little bit about what was going on instead of trying to make you guys sort of try to figure that out. All right, so now that we are completely back together, we're coated, let's kind of go through some of the small parts. I want to go and put this together. I want to show you what it looks like. And then, of course, I've got a little surprise for you of something else that we didn't talk about, and we'll kind of go into that here towards the end. Small parts here. Everything got coated. This is Sniper Gray. This happens to be our ghost color. We're going to show that off here just a little bit better. So these are all the extra. These are some back straps. These are some base pads for some of the mags and things like that. These are all the small parts that we're sending at the beginning. This is typically how we would do this. So we would end up coating them, bagging them, sending them back. Of course, the customer is able to use them how they want. They can put them in a case. If they sell their gun, all of it can go as a set, however they want to do that. So you do have that option. We've got some a few bigger parts. So we've got the extended mag, and then this is a new part that we also ended up coating. So I think halfway through this, I know it's been a little while since we started this work up into completion, and I do know there were some other parts that were mailed in, and I believe this might have been one of those pieces, which was this mag extension. I do know that we talked about the back strap in the beginning of the video, but I do know there was, like I said, there was a couple of other small pieces that made their way here that we coated in this project that we just didn't discuss. Let's talk about the frame, then let's go into the slide. So on the frame, we basically just did a strip down, and then we went ahead and went right straight into what is Sniper Gray, and then of course the back strap on here is done in our Ghost. Now, Ghost was a custom color that we created because we had so many people wanting to match the cars that are out on the market. You guys see a lot of those different versions of the cars that are out there, whether you've got a Honda or a Ford or a BMW or whatever else you see out there. They're all a little different from each other, and I happen to have, in one of our videos I happen to have the BMW version, which is called Brooklyn Gray. So when I created the color, I did create it the closest to BMWs because that was what I had on hand. But that's kind of the idea. So this is what it would look like together. So it's a nice two-tone combination. I really do like the change over the FDE. I'm just not a big fan of the FDE, but that's me. So that's kind of what that would look like there. And if you just went with this one, it would look pretty much like that, which is a nice change. Now let's talk a little bit about the slide. Let's go into the cut work. I do want to talk a little bit about the cut work itself. Just going to kind of stick some of this stuff out of the way. It may be halfway out of camera angle, but you guys have seen it. So on the slide itself, you know, now that we're back together, you can kind of get a better visualization of kind of what's going on here. We ended up doing the straight up removal of those serrations on the left and the right side, and then of course we did a step down, and then we did a dual pocket. We added a Cobra nose to the end to add some extra barrel visibility. What makes this a little bit different from the cut work than what we would maybe see on some of the other services that we offer, is that all of this was done with somewhat of what I would call a step-down pattern. So, you know, once again, as we kind of discussed in the beginning of the video, the slide sits kind of like this in the vise, okay? It's flat, you know, so it's held in this way. And this is thicker and this is thinner over here. And that's pretty obvious. I mean, if you guys have any of these guns, you can take a look. You could see that this is a fairly thin edge. And then, of course, if you were to flip it over on the inside, you look at it and you go, wow, that's really thick. Well, the idea is that that's exactly how it is. It's a tapered design for what I would say is probably maximum rigidity. So they're getting it thicker at the bottom where it connects to the frame, and then they're thinning it out at the top. This is not something new in the firearm industry, but it is a successful style when building a firearm, because you're getting the best weight reduction and you're getting the most rigidity overall where it counts, right? So the idea for this design was really to take advantage of removing the most amount of weight in the thickest area and the least amount of weight in the thinnest area. And that's exactly what we've done. So we were able to cut deeper on this side of the pocket and more shallow on this side of the pocket, keeping with that taper. So basically, maximum weight reduction, giving us the overall best lineup and matchup to what the manufacturer has done. We ended up adding the dual windows in there. We've stepped it down to get into those dual windows. We added a little bit of a post or a little bit of a stud in the center for a little bit of finger traction if you are one of the people that has the hand over the top or the hand in the front zone and you don't want your finger just to slide right through or slide off. That can be used for that. There's also these rather aggressive edges here now, so you can use these as 2 finger points if you wanted to. So not only have we removed those front serrations and some of the text, we have also gone through of just kind of like creating a pattern that happens to work a little bit better for what we're wanting to do. We are getting that weight reduction, although we did talk about at the beginning of the video. I don't think we're after a lot of weight reduction because they are fairly skeletonized from the manufacturer. However, you know, if we're going to do the work, we might as well try to follow through and do it all the way the best we can. So everything else on here, for those of you that are unsure or unaware or skipped into the video, are factory parts, factory irons, factory you know, optic, loaded chamber indicator, all the stuff inside. None of this has been oiled. So that's one of the things about us is whenever we do your work, we will do the cut work and then we're going to move right straight into sandblasting, cleanup, and coloring. When we send it back, we don't really put any oil on it, and I say that and we do it in that kind of form because some people use grease. So some people are using like a frog lube or something like that, and we have had people in the past say, "Hey, I didn't really want oil on my gun. I run a lube," and now it turns into being a problem. We would recommend that you are actively checking your weapon for debris that's getting in it anyhow, and on top of that, lubing, whether that's a grease or whether that's an oil, applying that. So we would recommend that. So have that handy whenever you send something in. We do leave a notice card when we send it back, so you will get a little bit of a notice on that. I want to talk about something else that I've built for you guys, and then we'll just kind of give you guys some overall final thoughts. We're taking this one a little bit slower. So, as you guys know, standard barrel that comes in these guns. So one of the things about this project in itself was I had the opportunity to build it how I wanted. This happens to be a customer who sent in a lot of work through us over the last several years, and I said, I'm looking for an MC9. I want to do something, but I really can't tell you what I'm going to do. And this individual has enough faith in us as a company to turn something out that we haven't seen before and something new. And of course any cut work on the MC9 would be something we haven't seen before, right? So just because it's such a new model slide that's out there. With that being said, he sent it in, and then I had the opportunity to kind of dissect everything. Halfway through this project, I got to thinking, I wonder if any other parts fit this gun. And if they do fit this gun, how could they be modified to work with this gun? So those are all things that kind of came to mind and as I'm building a design and as I'm cutting things out. And what ended up coming about of that was creating a barrel off of another gun. So this is basically came from a TP9SF, and then the barrel was like crazy long. And by the way, those of you that are curious watching this video, just for your own knowledge, you are, or at least in my case, you are able to take a TP9SF barrel and slide it into this gun with no modification. So in other words, it will go in without saying, oh, I've got to cut the barrel down to get it to go in or it won't fit. It'll go in, just the barrel will go in. Factory barrel, factory slide, they will slide together. Or at least in my case, I didn't run into that issue. So this is kind of how we created it, and it's a little bit like this. So that's pretty interesting. You know, the idea would be that you could run a comped barrel right straight out of your gun without modifying anything on the gun, with essentially just picking up an aftermarket barrel. So with that being said, I know this is gonna bring a lot of questions. This has a lot of traction probably around it. We've done this in the past where we've cut barrels like this for some of the Glocks and things. I don't think as a business that we'll offer this, and maybe that will change. You know, somewhere along the way, maybe I'll buy a batch of barrels and I'll run 10 and I'll put them on the webpage and that's it. When the 10 are gone, the 10 are gone. I say that because we try to stay out of manufacturing, and that is one of the reasons why I kind of gave you guys the information of what this barrel started as, because I could have just said, hey, I made it, and not really gave you any background on that, and, you know, then it's kind of a closed discussion. I didn't do that with the more or less with the intent that if another company or somebody else wanted to do that, they could, right? So I kind of gave you a head start on what you're doing and how you're doing and how you want that to go. So, you know, maybe if we don't do it, maybe you're going to find another company that will do it. It can be done with a TP9 SF barrel. It can be cut down and ported. Obviously, you could do this multiple ways. You could do a single port and shorten this up, or you could do some things. My overall opinion of a setup like this is it's untested, right? So I don't know what results you're going to get off of this. I don't see it being a problem, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist until you try it. So once again, factory barrel, this cannot be done. I know people will see things and they'll go, can I get that done on my factory barrel? It cannot be done on your factory barrel. Give me a minute. I'm going to work behind the camera and I'm going to put this together. All right, so I was able to get that slide back on the frame here. It took me a little bit there to get it back on. And, you know, overall, I'm super happy with the way that it came out. I'm glad that we were able to build a design for the MC9. I think that they are challenging. We've seen a lot of requests actually come in already for, you know, what services are going to be offered. And we kind of kept this one a secret a little bit. And it was mostly just because we didn't know 100% what we were going to be offering, what that style of cut work was going to look like. And I can say that now that I have a little bit more experience with this model, I'm thinking that we're probably going to see other services eventually come to the surface that we would offer on this. Well, you know, kind of one of the things that we had discussed at the beginning of the video was that weight reduction pocket that they've done inside of the slide. And for me, those are my, you know, concerns with cutting from the top over the edge or over the side. I think it's, you know, it potentially could be a recipe for disaster, and it could cause a problem. My mind may change over time. You know, who knows? Maybe I'll end up doing a top window and look at it and go, wow, that's a lot deeper than I thought. But first go at it, you know, it kind of was we should stay out of that zone kind of a thing. And that's kind of where I'm at with it right now, still in the making of this video. But keep in mind, I would always encourage you guys to take a look at the dates in which these videos have come out, because somebody might be watching this video a year or two down the road going, man, this guy said in the video he wasn't doing any top cuts, and he did. So things are bound to change over time. We do see that a lot where we add new things to the lineup, and you know, at one point in time, I may have come forward and said, I just don't think so. And as time goes on, I may have changed my mind and said, hey, I think it's doable. You know, one of the other things I want to express about this gun, and I do have a concern about it, is the issues with this. Now, I understand it's a new gun. I get that. However, you know, it seems like daily on the Facebook groups, the Reddit, we see it on Google, on some of the small forums that are local. I've got an issue. It won't eject. It's stovepipes. I cracked my slide. I can't get it to load right. You know, one of the things I want to say, and I'm going to be as polite about it as I can, if you have issues with your firearm, please don't send it to us. Get those sorted out before you send it in. Because what happens is, we end up doing cut work on it, and you're going to continue to still have that same problem. I say that because a lot of times on those guns, there's an issue with the barrel. Well, not using this one as an example, but using this one, in most cases, we're not making any changes to those barrels. And in so much, in fact, we're not making any change to the top where the barrel actually touches. We're only doing the sides, which the barrel doesn't actually touch at all. So, You know, we have seen, and I hate to use the word, but we have seen scammers, and we have seen people that go, oh, hey, I've got an issue with my gun, I'll send it in, and then it's his issue. We already know that these weapons, in some cases, already have problems. And with that being said, I'm not going to chase those problems. So much, in fact, if it seems like somebody or people over time have sent guns in that are problematic and they want us to do work and they're still problematic, I'll just pull the service altogether and I won't offer anything on it. As a business, we stay very busy processing orders, and what I can't do is chase down problems of something that we didn't create or we didn't cause. So please don't send it in if you have any issues. It's not going to get you anywhere where you want to be. Even if you sent it in and the cut work was done and then you had to send it back to Canik, they're probably not going to want to see that cut work. So do things in the correct order. Send it to Canik. Make sure it's working. If you've bought a brand new gun, fire a couple mags through it. Run a couple different grain rounds through it. Change out your backstrap and your mags and anything else you want to do, knowing that you don't have any issues, and then send it in, right? It's easy to determine if we have some sort of an issue at that point. But the guys who, well, I just bought one and it's brand new and I'm going to send it right into you, it might have had a problem out of the box. Unfortunately, I'm not going to chase that problem. And mostly that's because these guns have a track record of having problems. So, let that be somewhat of a note to you. I don't want to be the guy that sounds like that I'm just not going to fix anybody's problems. If it's something that we've created, we'll be more than welcome to look at it, take it back in, solve those, sort those out. But if we're talking about failure to feeds, failure to ejects, and things like that, no, that might just have come that way. So I would be a little bit more cautious on that. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, ask. As of right now, whatever services are on the webpage are kind of all that we offer. And I say that because that's where you should be checking. Some stuff drops off the list, some stuff adds to the list, and you didn't even know it got there. Instagram is usually the quickest and the first place stuff is posted. So we usually just happen to see stuff over there the quickest because it's the easiest for me to list and to post. That stuff all goes over to Facebook, and then of course it trickles down to to YouTube, and we do still see a lot of stuff getting posted on the Canik Reddit page from those guys. We do a lot of work for a lot of people, and a handful of that stuff ends up turning up on there. So if you want to know opinions, or you like this, you want to know turnaround times, and you don't want to hear it from me, but you want to hear it from an actual customer themselves, then that's where I would go. Once again, color combination, Sniper Gray, Ghost. You can build this out however you want. One of the things we didn't really talk about, and I'll just hit on it briefly, is the frame. To be quite honest with you, I haven't taken a lot of Canik frames apart. I have seen some different variances where on some of them there's a roll pin here that goes down through. And I don't mean on the takedown, but I mean on the actual slide stop. There's a roll pin that goes there, and some of them don't have it. This one is actually like super easy to take apart on the frame in comparison to some of the other ones. Basically roll pin, roll pin, roll pin. You're going to pop those out. This guy does not come out until you take the locking lug out, and then that just kind of slides in and out. So that means that this is a pin versus the other ones have a roll pin up and down, and then this is a pin. So these just both come, start on the right, come out the left. Guys, watch a video on it. I know there's some people that are really super handy over there on YouTube and on Reddit. And once again, just be patient when you're putting your mag release in, because you're probably going to yell. You're going to yell a lot. So with that being said, if you guys need anything, just let us know, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.